Hello, my name is Ben Lovegrove, and in this video I'm going to review Bob Lazar's autobiography Dreamland. For those of you who are already familiar with Bob Lazar, he needs no introduction, but for the benefit of those who have never heard of him, here's a quick 60-second summary. Bob Lazar first came to the world's attention in 1989 when he stepped forward to tell his story about how he had been recruited to work in the highly secretive S4 facility in Area 51 in Nevada. The interviews were conducted by George Knapp of KLAS TV. He told how he had been employed to help in the attempts to reverse engineer the propulsion system of an extraterrestrial craft. He also explained how he had been given access to the craft, had witnessed test flights, and had seen a total of 8 flying saucers in hangars. His seemingly incredible story may have ended there, and he may have faded back into obscurity in the subsequent years. But 30 years later, he was persuaded by the filmmaker Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbell to repeat his story to a new generation. The Corbell film Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers was released in 2018 and included interviews with both Lazar and George Knapp. A year or so later, Bob Lazar has published an autobiography in which he goes into much more detail about his background and his work at S4. We learn about the relationship between him and his handler, Dennis, and his co-worker in the lab, Barry. We learn about the stifling atmosphere in S4, how employees were forbidden to associate with each other, how all chat was strictly controlled, and how each group of researchers was segregated from each other, and therefore unable to share information in a way that would have helped speed up progress on the project. He was subjected to lengthy, intrusive, and intimidating surveillance while his majestic security clearance was considered. We also learn why he decided to break cover and tell his story, and it's easy to understand his reasons. I can't help but wonder if his US government employers had shown some humility, humanity, and humour, he might still be working at S4, and we would never have heard of Bob Lazar. At first, it wasn't an altruistic motive that drove him to tell his closest friends about his work. Instead, it was an act of self-preservation. He had to tell someone because he was living with the intense mental pressure created by the way his handlers were treating him. If his employers had shown him just a little of the employee care that we've come to expect in the 21st century, they may have kept Lazar as an employee and maintained the secrecy. The book continues with descriptions of how he and his then-wife Tracy, a friend called Jean, and John Lear, son of William Lear, inventor of the Learjet, went out to the Area 51 perimeter to watch test flights of the craft. That was obviously before the authorities seized control of large amounts of land surrounding the base that have since made such excursions impossible without provoking an intimidating response from armed guards. These UFO sightseeing trips didn't go down well with his employers, and after his car tire was shot out on the freeway, Lazar took John Lear's advice and contacted George Knapp at KLAS to tell his story to a wider audience. Lazar, knowing how he'd been treated and what was being kept secret, wanted to divulge to the US taxpayers how their money was being spent, and to tell the wider world that a secretive offshoot of the US military had acquired extraterrestrial craft. Obviously, this didn't go down well with his now ex-employers, and Lazar was continually followed and kept under close watch, as were his friends. But undeterred and thinking he'd be safer if he went fully public, he eventually agreed to an open interview with George Knapp. Eventually, the surveillance trailed off and ceased, and Bob Lazar was left to pick up the pieces of his life. Working at S4 had taken a huge toll on his personal life, his career prospects, and his marriage. Going public was also hard on the people who had worked with him. But in the final analysis, Bob Lazar is a scientist. It was the science of the flying saucer that fascinated him, and had he been able to continue, he may have made some progress. Bob Lazar has finally rebuilt his personal and professional life, and for him it seems this story is over. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like and share it with others who might be interested. And subscribe to my channel for more videos on these and related topics.